homeopathics, then what they should be saying is that they're a medical doctor and they just so happen to do alternative therapy, or they might just give out supplements and herbs and homeopathics. And if you want that to be licensed, go to a medical school, get your license to go cut people, and get your license to give out drugs. In the meantime, don't be pushing laws that make naturopaths out of, or make doctors out of naturopaths. In my opinion, these people that are going to these schools can't cut the mustard to go to a medical school, whatever that means, and so they shortcut it, maybe having tried going to a medical school, and have went to this school because they think it's a shortcut to getting a license practice, which limits the people that are in that kind of work, and therefore they garner or can corner the market economically. These are often the case with these states that pass these laws, where you see these particular doctors from these types of schools helping push and fund lobbying the legislatures in the states to get these kinds of laws passed, when they're saying they're the only good naturopath in the country, which is true, that they are. They're not a naturopath. They're going to a school that has added naturopathy to a medical program. But what they've tried and managed to get Congress in each one of these states to believe is that they are a naturopathic school, but since they've gotten all these other programs, that they are a lot better, and so, of course, then allow us to cut and to prescribe. Folks, naturopathic medicine was run out of this country, and it was almost terminated along with homeopathics because the drug industry wanted to be able to corral and only be able to patent the formula. In other words, when anybody limits access, they then begin to be abusive, don't they? Because they get greedy. The occupation of being able to heal people has been, and for a long time had been, a noble occupation, because usually those people are there to help people, and all they wanted to do was to make a living in order to do it. Well, being able to make a living as a naturopath has become very difficult because we have other practitioners there, and oftentimes naturopaths are supported by the subsidiary or the extra income that comes from some of the remedies, because that then offsets the extra charges they might have to charge. But I will tell you this, that if I were to take an assessment of someone and determine their nutritional deficiencies, I should be able to do that as a naturopath, because that is not dealing with drugs. I'm not saying there isn't, by the way, a person in this world that is short or depleted of aspirin when they're born. They're not depleted and short of Ritalin when they are born. They are not short of a drug. However, to stay healthy, you do not take drugs. You take what you're supposed to be using in your body, what you are made up of. And yes, those can be scientifically tested, and assessments can be made in order to find out the optimal range for those kind of supplements. For example, vitamin A has been known to help with eyesight. So the FDA, the Federal Drug Administration, set a requirement down for the recommended daily allowance. But did you know that if you don't get the recommended daily allowance and you go below it, you will probably go blind? So we're not talking about recommendations for optimal health. We're talking about what you need to have keep from something debilitating to happen to you. So, from happening to you. So, optimal health ranges are different than the RDAs, and naturopaths know that. That's why you would go to them. I'm not saying the school that wants to be a doctor and get licensed and cut you and give drugs are always going to be doctors that say, well, I just don't want to do that. I want to be able to do everything else and then have that in case. Well, fine. But that still doesn't mean that being able to give out things that don't require a license or prescription by a doctor that gives a drug out is the same as the giving out an herb. So part of what they do is occupations that are common, that do not need license. The other part, cutting, giving out drugs, so far that's something that needs licensure. So if you live in a state that has naturopathic licenses, you need to start working on getting rid of it. These people that are doing all that other stuff, they can go to med school, they can go to medical school, and they can get their medical license so they can give you their drugs. Now, you pass a law, and it keeps them from being able to do the drugs and the medicine. Well, I don't really feel sorry for them. There's probably a doctor that they can work with to get the drugs, and they can continue to do their alternative medicine if that's all they say they do. Now, the other point about it is that when you are dealing with these people, they seem to tend to think they have a little bit more on other people. And what that means is, well, by golly, I went to Harvard, so I'm a better chemist than going to the University of Texas. If I went to Yale, I'm a better attorney than if you went to the University of Texas. Well, maybe so, but it does not mean anything by and large. Different students make different grades. Maybe the University of Texas student was better, maybe not. But the bottom line is, if you go to those schools, it's not the reason to prohibit someone else from not being able to be an engineer because they went to a state school and didn't go to the Ivy League. So I'm going to encourage everybody to go to an organization and take a look. You're going to find this organization had been sued by a lot of these organizations that are naturopathic, licensed, pro-licensed people. And by the way, those people that were licensed to trying to get every state passed in the licensure have sued this organization called the American Naturopathic Medical Association, but they've lost every time. The Naturopathic Medical Association is the nation's largest and oldest American naturopath organization. It was founded as a nonprofit scientific educational organization. It's dedicated to exploring all the body, mind, medicine, and health issues. The ANMA is a non-discriminatory group of people with membership open to doctors of naturopathy, and they have a list of schools they will recognize, and there is a board that certifies and is a certification process for these schools. I'm going to tell you something. A lot of people go, well, you're not from an accredited school. Oh, yeah, I am. You know, if you were to have and start a school that happened to be against or by and large did not always recommend pharmaceuticals, and the pharmaceuticals are the ones that are funding the accreditation process or donate to the accreditation people money for them to go about and accredit things, which, by the way, is just a private organization. It's a non-governmental organization. Then there's going to be some bias on who that accreditation group is going to accredit. So no, They weren't always like that. So what happened was some people got together, said they were going to set some high standards for accreditation of naturopathic schools, and those are the ones that are approved are